Now, the RuneScape market has been quite strong for a while now. For pretty much all of 2023, a lot of the most popular items in the game have just continued to go up and up, and are at some of their most expensive price points ever. But just yesterday, we finally saw the first really big market crash we've seen in a while. So what exactly is going on here, and what items were affected? Now, I think the item that people are talking about primarily the most is the Tunic Shadow. Obviously, we can see that something wild happened here, because the item has actually remained pretty steady until just yesterday. Pretty much out of nowhere, the item went from 1.4 bill down to 1.2 bill, a 200 mil decrease in just a few hours. So for sure, that's weird, but has anything else been affected? Well, yes. Other high-end mage gear also dropped a tremendous amount in that time frame. If you look at the Ancestral Robe Top, it went from 170 mil down to a low of 130 mil. Losing 40 mil in just a couple hours is crazy. It went down like 25%. The Ancestral Robe Bottom, exact same thing, went from 140 mil down to 110 mil, just losing a tremendous amount. And then we have the Ancestral Hat, which to start with, I had no idea was this expensive, but it went from 40 mil down to 30 mil, again, just in a couple hours. Another item that was greatly affected, the Sanguinesti, going from a weekly high of 100 mil down to 85 mil, just again, in the exact same time period. And finally here, we also have the Kodai Wand, which is also severely affected, going from 80 mil down to a low of like 60 mil. So again, losing about 25% of its total value. Now, one thing you might have noticed between all these items is that most of them bounce back very quickly. For example, the Tunic Shadow went down to 1.2 bill, went all the way back up to nearly 1.4 bill again, and is now kind of hovering at around a 70 mil decrease. The Ancestral Robe Set, it was kind of similar, had a massive dip and then shot back up again. But that's not to say it's fully recovered, because it really hasn't. Even as of right now, most of these items are still down about 15 to 20%, which is a massive amount for just being like a 48-hour time period. So what exactly happened? So whenever there is a significant price change in an item, I like to go have a look at the update history. So we got two updates that are in the time frame. Which one do you guys think it is? Is it the Desert Treasure 2 reward beta? Or is it the Sailing poll results? Well, I think it's probably a safe bet that it is Desert Treasure 2. Now, to put it simply, the beta for the Desert Treasure 2 rewards is here, and the reason that I think this caused such a big market crash is just due to the uncertainty of the power of our existing items versus what these new ones are going to introduce. Desert Treasure 2 is introducing the Verdus Robe Set, some new high-end mage gear, and we're also getting upgrades to the Ancient Scepter. Now, clearly, when the beta was released, there was a big knee-jerk reaction that caused a lot of people to just dump their mage gear. I think a lot of people just saw new shiny mage items and sold off. The reality is, though, that the Verdus Robe Set only is going to be good with the Ancient Spellbook, which I think you could argue is going to be way more niche than the straight up damage bonus that the Ancestral gives. So a lot of people sold off really quickly, but then the price bounced back equally as quickly. So I think the reality is just there's a lot of uncertainty in this sector of the market, and although I think personally, I don't think the Tunic Shadow or the Ancestral Robe Set is going to be really affected by these new items at all, the uncertainty does cause some pretty big price fluctuations. Now, one thing you could argue for pretty much all of the items that we're going to mention today, everything is incredibly expensive right now. So this market crash is relative. A year ago, the Ancestral Robe Set was worth 170 mil. After the market crash, it's still worth 300 mil, so nearly double what it was last April. So there's no doubt items are incredibly expensive right now. So this is actually maybe more of a mild correction more than a severe market crash realistically. The Twisted Bow has been on an interesting journey in 2023. It has reached its peak price, I think, ever historically, beyond like the first day or two of its release. It has pretty well doubled in price since November of 2021, which is coincidentally when they put in the GE tax. So I don't know, there might be a correlation here. Look at the price difference ever since the tax. Just a side thought, but crazy. Now looking into more recent times, just this week once again, in the exact same time frame, the Twisted Bow crashed from 1.4 bill down to 1.3 bill. and other ranged gear has also been affected. Missouri in particular lost a lot of value this week. The entire set going from 270 mil down to 214 mil. That's again like a 25% decrease in just a few days. Also, the Bow Ferdinand is now under 100 mil, which is the first time in recent memory at least it has been that cheap. Actually, this might actually be its new lowest price ever. So the Bofa is going down a lot. If you look at the month, it's gone down about 30 mil. And another random item here, the Zarite Van Braces, down about 20-30 mil in the month as well. Now I think for the Tombs of Amaska items, this is kind of where they were headed already. Ever since TOA released, Missouri has just been pretty consistently losing value. And the larger of a disparity there is between the most expensive desirable item, which is the Tunic and Shadow, and the cheaper items, kind of the worse this trend gets. People are doing TOA mostly to try to get a Shadow. It just makes up a large bulk of your hourly profit now, which means the other items you're kind of getting along the way and will continue to be pumped into the game at a very high rate. Also has not been a great week for the Osmunton's Fang, or it could be a great week if you want to buy one. This month, the Fang has gone down from 50 mil to a bottom of 35 mil. So although this is one of the most powerful weapons in the game, it's going to be a lot cheaper than the Rapier and the Blade of Saldor, simply based on its rarity. It's much more common than those two, to be specific. And to kind of cap off the PVM items, we have the Void Waker, which again lost a lot of value this week, going from 170 mil down to a bottom of 135 mil. Now, are all of these items connected in some way? Yes and no. There's not really a physical connection between all of them, but once a number of items start crashing in a RuneScape market, most things get sold off a bit as well, meaning that in a way they are connected. Like if we look at some random items on the front page, probably most of them have crashed in a pretty similar time frame. Inquisitors is down 40 mil on the month. The Dex Prayer Scroll is down about 10 mil on the month. The Dragnectar Crossbow is down the exact same time frame. So it is kind of connected. Now another item I really wanted to talk about is the Nature Rune. The Nature Rune has just continued to drop further than I thought was even possible, to be honest. So the Guardians of the Rift has been out since March 2022. At the time, Nature Runes were worth around 200 GP, and then they started to crash. Now, somewhere around this winter, January, they hit 100 GP. I'm like, well, that's the floor price. They can't go lower than that. The reason being is you can sell them to a shop for 100 gold, which means theoretically, they shouldn't be able to go below that. However, they have. Right now, they're worth 85 GP and continuing to fall. So how is this even possible? Well, I think there's a couple reasons. The first one is that there is a finite amount of room in these shops, so they can only be overstocked to a certain point, and the price that the shopkeepers are willing to pay goes down as you sell more items to them, which means the Grand Exchange is still a pretty good option to sell your excess Nature Runes. Selling to shops just takes effort. Sure, right now you theoretically could buy Nature Runes from the Grand Exchange and sell them to the shops for profit, but that takes time, it takes world hopping, it takes effort. So I'm now saying the new floor price for Nature Runes, I think, is 50 gold. Why 50 gold? Once it gets down to 50 GP, you can alch the Nature Rune for profit. Technically, I guess 54 gold. So at that point, I really don't think they'll go lower than that, but oh god, they've gone down a lot. Okay, so to kind of wrap this up here, sure, a lot of items in the market have dropped recently, and by a significant amount, but realistically, if we pull back a little bit and look even at the last year, items are still way more expensive than they have been historically, thanks to the large number of PVM related updates we've gotten, like Raids 3, next, upcoming Desert Treasure 2, new prayers. There's just a lot going on to stimulate these items, and a 10 to 20% dip is actually smaller than you would imagine when looking at the greater picture, and honestly looks like nobody is entirely sure what to make of Desert Treasure 2, which is leading to a lot of market uncertainty. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video as always, just a nice short one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Now before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Alejandra, Mitch Reinders, The Hybrid, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier. You guys are awesome. I do really appreciate it. Also, thank you to Kapersky, YoYoSub89, and NDM0001 for being subscribed at the Runite tier. Thanks everyone again, and I'll see you next time.